This summer, Great Barrington made a major change to the type of funeral you can have at its cemeteries. Green burials occur when a body is placed into the ground so that it can decompose into the earth. Not only do green burials have close ties to certain religious ceremonies, but are also considered a more environmentally conscious option. Connecting Point's Ross Lippman introduces us to the man responsible for the town's change and how it was his way of honoring his late wife.
On an early fall morning at Ahavath Shalom Cemetery in Great Barrington, these are the quiet hours for a walk to start the day, reading the names of those that have passed and the mementos loved ones leave behind.
You know, it's funny, I walk around, I look at stones.
It's a walk Ed Abrams has become very familiar with over the last 13 years.
Sometimes it's sadness, sometimes it's just quiet.
When he comes to visit his wife.
You know, it hit me like a ton of bricks, too young. I was 48, my wife was just turned 47.
Shelley Schuster Abrams died after a 14-month battle with bladder cancer, leaving behind Ed and their 2 daughters. Shelley's wish was to have a traditional Jewish burial, allowing for her body to touch the earth and ultimately decompose into it. This is also known as a green burial.
Along the way, found out, you know, we don't have green burials here, and I was told there were obstacles.
Today, most bodies are buried in a concrete vault to act as a barrier between the casket and earth to avoid the ground underneath from collapsing without extra maintenance. Though Abrams really saw this as a single problem: money.
The big thing that people will see is there aren't a lot of obstacles to it. The things you think about, is it unsanitary? It's not. Will animals dig you up? No. The big thing for the town and for the cemetery maintenance is they need to come back and keep an eye on the grave, because the ground will settle. So that just costs a little bit more.
So Abrams became one of the town's cemetery commissioners.
I look for a motion to do for green burials, $12.65 on a regular day, and for the weekends it's going to be $14.95.
And after 3 years...
You have to do roll call.
Oh, Steve?
Yes.
Marilyn?
Aye.
Ed?
Aye.
I go aye. Unanimous.
With an additional $600 charge per burial, voted to make Great Barrington one of 18 cities and towns in Massachusetts to allow green burials.
Sitting all in a room, it's like, we could do this. It's not that big a deal.
Why do you think such few towns and cities are allowing green burials to make them the exception rather than the norm here in Massachusetts?
I can speak a little bit to that.
It's an effort Stockbridge resident Candace Curry, a member of Green Burials Massachusetts, is trying to take statewide.
We've moved away from this natural process to something that is actually quite toxic to the environment.
Curry says between the concrete liner and vault surrounding the casket, as well as the embalming fluid used to preserve bodies in the days before a funeral, modern-day burials are an environmental hazard. And as far as the extra cost to perform green burials,
where you can save money on a green burial is you're not purchasing the grave liner or the vault. And typically you're not buying the most expensive or an expensive casket. You could be buried in a cardboard box or a shroud, both of which are well under $500.
So you live in Stockbridge, correct?
I live in Stockbridge, and the bylaws in Stockbridge require what's called a permanent vault. And so that is a vault that actually has a cover that seals it. And so what that means is a body doesn't actually get to decompose. We actually putrefy inside vaults.
So what will you do? What will you do when your time comes?
I won't go there. And that's certain. I find it actually offensive to be told that I have to be buried in a vault.
Curry hopes to follow in Abrams' footsteps and join the Stockbridge Cemetery Commission to help change its bylaws.
You know, you say till death do us part, and that's probably the last time, but you don't really think about what it's like.
Abrams became increasingly motivated to make a change in Great Barrington when he too learned of the environmental consequences. But he also says there's value and families having the option to choose green burials, one he didn't have when his wife died.
It didn't rack me. It wasn't terrible that I couldn't fulfill her wish and do that kind of burial. It's what she wanted. It couldn't be done. It couldn't be done. We did our best. It's nice that it is available for people who want it. And in fact, days after we passed this, we had our first green burial.